My father was a scientist, and one of the examples I think that I saw from kind of this very start to the end was where he created ice magic. As a child, I got to visit his lab. It was really interesting to watch that process, you know. So he would, you know, he had an idea of what he thought might work, and he tried it, and it wasn't quite as successful as he wanted it to be. So then he had to go back and he'd have a look and he'd refine the recipe, you know, he'd refine it with his knowledge of science, you know, always with that understanding of chemistry and how materials interact with one another. And this whole iterative process of scientific inquiry and scientific investigation until you get to something that you know people are going to like. Finally, when they launched it, they were walking around with these bowls of ice magic, offering them around, and he said, oh no, I couldn't possibly eat any more, you know, because he was constantly having to try it, to improve on it, and to use that knowledge that he had, that he'd learnt at university and that he'd continued to learn right through his working life, to actually use that knowledge to then create a product that was going to be loved, I think, by a nation. So then when I went out to teach science, we would always talk about it's an iterative process. You know, your science experiment might not work in the first instance. Have a look. What went wrong? What happened? Why is that happening? And then to start to introduce that knowledge, you know, that deep understanding that we have around chemistry, around physics, around biology, to actually say, okay, well, this is the knowledge we have, you know, this is what we know, so use that to try and explain what actually happened when you were doing this science experiment, for example, and then how can you improve on it? Exposing them to actually get an appreciation and to look at the world around them and to have that awe and to have that wonder rather than that fear, and know that they can actually inquire into it and investigate the world around them and start to understand it a little more. So that's, I guess, where my passion for teaching science was.